Hi, Susanna. This is Jackie in the library, and I wanted to make you yet another quick tutorial about how to do some of those saving functions you asked about in your email. I emailed you back, and as you saw, I did also include a link to Mesa Schools has a LibGuide. Actually, it's a similar tool to the one I use here that I thought was really good about asking scientific questions. In fact, you may have already seen it. I think a lot really depends on your assignment and the scientific scenario that you're in. If you are in this particular class, I'm not sure of your assignment, where your scientific question is posing your question, I think one thing, no matter what your scientific scenario is, you'll want to make sure it's narrow and searchable so you can really get at, did the evidence support your claim? Now, the evidence can be, if you're in an actual testing situation where you're testing a scenario, you can have a narrow enough question where your test results will be accurate to your original question. For this class, I'm guessing your assignment might be posing that scientific question, but making sure it's narrow enough so the testing you're actually doing is doing a lit review or a survey of the research that's already been done to see if your claim can be backed up by the evidence that other scholars have done. Sometimes it's called primary research versus secondary research, and the lit searching is considered more secondary research. It's still super valuable because no matter, even if you're doing primary research at one point, you have to do secondary research to start. That's how you even know where to begin. So that's kind of a tricky one, and I want to make sure you know, just call me or email me, and we can either set up a phone call, or if you want to come by, we can talk more about your scientific question and maybe make this a little bit more helpful. In the meantime, I'm assuming you know how to get to the library page because you've been there before, but if not, you go to Blue Mountain Community College's homepage, click on library, and we are going to scroll down to our library databases. Now, within our library databases, we have specifically a science tab. One thing I want to point out is that even though we're going to be looking at these databases, definitely take a look if you'd like at Academic Search Complete. It's a fabulous database. It's very ugly. I know it's not a very attractive interface, but it's a fantastic database that covers like almost 8,000 journals. You can choose different databases within Academic Search Complete that cover things such as if you find yourself doing, in different areas of science, like, psychology, maybe you're doing something with neuroscience, or if you're doing something medical, some of these databases, some of these subcategories are very useful to use. In fact, let me go ahead and, I'm going to pretend you did use this just in case, because I just realized you asked a saving question, so I want to make sure you know how to do that if you did end up using this database. So, I'm just going to type something. I think Michelle had me look at monarch butterfly migration for her example, so I'll go ahead and try that again. We'll look at that. And what I'll see here within the database, let's see if I can narrow it down. Yoink. That makes it a little bit more readable. Sorry, I hope so. What you're going to see in a lot of databases is a couple things, and it's fairly similar. Let me just go ahead and click on this. And this is probably what you ran into. You got into the title. You can see this abstract. That's really helpful. If you want to get to the actual article, and I think you indicated this, you would, yes, click on the PDF. Once you're in this PDF, you can go ahead and print it. You can download it and save it. It's there for you. The other thing that you can do, and you may remember this from the last tutorials, you can get help citing it. So you click Cite. I'm sure for science here you're using APA, and you have a wonderful example of how to cite. The other cool thing is that they have the entire, this is from the journal called Nature. It's a fantastic journal. It's very scholarly, despite its name. I think some people think it's Nature. It's actually a really well-respected journal. They have the whole content. So on this one, we just happen to be in these pages here. If you wanted to look at some of the other articles that came up in this exact same journal, you can just click ahead and just like flipping through a magazine. And there's the next article. There's the next article. It's kind of handy. I'm going to close out of here. You asked about the folder feature. So the folder feature, yes, once you're in the article, you can actually just click on the add to folder link here. That's not very useful because it's only going to last for the duration of your session. You may have discovered that. to create a permanent folder, and you kind of hinted at this in your email, yes, you would have to actually sign in. I like walking people through EBSCO because here in the fine print, if you need to create a new account, there it is. I think it's not that easy to see. And you would just go ahead and create your personal account. That's within EBSCO. That should stay with you. So if you are going to school here and you plan on transferring to OSU or another university, it's 95% of colleges have EBSCO at their universities. It's very rare that somebody does not. It's a well-known database company. This should follow you. So if you find yourself in 2 years from now in a 300 level class using some articles, you already have your EBSCO articles already here. You can save your work, and it should follow you. So to give you that information, one thing I sometimes like to point out is, since you are doing science, you can limit to more recent information. So say you wanted to limit to the last 4 years, 3 years, you could do that just by selecting your dates. We'll go ahead to May. Those sort of things can be very helpful. So, and you would just click search after that. So that's academic search complete. To do a similar thing, I'm going to close out of here. Back to our library databases, back to science. To do a similar thing in academic one file, you would experience that as well. And actually on this right-hand side here, most of these, except for Access Science, are an EBSCO or a Gale database. So what I just did in Academic Search Complete, since Agricola, for example, is owned by Academic Search Complete, it's the same feature. You don't have to create a separate one for each subcategory. You're set. Academic One files are other major database, and a similar thing, I actually, to be honest, I haven't created a link here, but I imagine you would just sign in with Google, and you can see I have several accounts, so I would just sign in. It looks like create my account using Google to make my permanent library links, or if you have a Microsoft Outlook email, you can do that as well. Totally up to you, but yeah, very similar thing where if we typed in, I'm going to type in colony collapse disorder with bees. I'm very worried about bees, like I think most of us are. Let's do basic search. Oops, I really meant to hit the arrow, sorry. Gale, just to give you an overview, this poem comes up. I'd like to point out some of these other features. Academic journals comes up first, but I also want you to know that there's also magazines, books, news. Some other things you can do in here is, similar to EBSCO, is if you want to search within the results a little bit further, you can certainly do that. Sometimes it's very helpful. If you want to limit your date range, just like in EBSCO, you can do that. You can also limit to, type of report. If you want to look at certain subject areas, like say you're really interested in, the transmission of the disease, you could do that. That might be very interesting. That will take you to the 10 articles specifically related to that. It's kind of cool. And EBSCO does that as well. And finally, this last tool, this is a very specific subject that we just searched. But if I go ahead and click on Topic Finder, I find this may be a little bit more helpful if I'm looking at a broad subject. So for example, today I had a student come in and they wanted to do research on drug addiction and mental health. Well, that's a big topic. This Topic Finder really helped them narrow it down. We're already pretty narrow. In some ways we're looking at a certain thing, but if you really wanted to look at, specifically, pesticides or the impacts of commercial beekeepers, pesticides, this will take you down to the 8 articles, specifically looking at colony collapse disorder and pesticides, which might be really interesting, or just any of these would be very interesting, so I won't get distracted. So, but again, the same thing. Let me just click on one of these here. So similar, you can have already created your account if you'd like. But again, you can download this. This would be downloading it to a flash drive. You can certainly do that. Save here. It's gone to my folder, but again, you have to have a library folder saved in order for that to happen. Citation tool. You've probably seen this. APA, and there you are. So again, I find that just easiest for me to copy and paste and just save in an open Word document that I have. So it's totally up to you. So I hope that makes sense. You know, as far as, you know, scientific questions, it's really kind of asking about like the why, how, and so what. You know, if you just stick to those three, why is this happening? Why is, say, colony collapse disorder happening? Well, pesticides could be one of the reasons. You know, that could be one of your whys. One of your other whys could be, is there something climatic that's happening? Or one of the whys could be there's this bacterial infestation that is spreading among colonies. Those are three different whys that could be this problem. You could, you know, talk about the how is this manifesting itself? Well, the how it's manifesting itself probably depends on the original condition. If it's spreading as a pesticide disease, this might be, say, a how could be it's infecting like 50% of the colony, but not all of the colony. Or in this case, probably since it's collapse, might be all of them. A how could be, is it targeting just the queen or the drones or a certain part of the bee, you know, life cycle that makes that really significant. And as far as the what and so what, I mean, bees are kind of an easy what and so what. It affects our food supply. You know, as humans, it's very important to us. But it could also, if your what could be, it affects other parts of some sort of chain. I mean, science is all about systems. So one of the things that you probably almost always ask in your what is, what part of the system is being impacted on this? What are the consequences? What's the consequences if this action continues? What happens if this action had never started? What happens if something comes in to change this action? So, and those are really kind of the, for me, you know, Michelle might say something differently, but I think if you kind of address those three questions, you're really off to a good start with your scientific research. We didn't really look at credibility. You know, one thing, this is a very short article, so it's probably one you wouldn't want to use. But one thing to look for, and let's see if we can find something. I don't know, new crop strategy. Let's go ahead and look at this. One thing you might be looking for is, this is from something called risk management. That's not very helpful. You can download the PDF right here, by the way. Again, this is kind of short, but you, and this is by a news reporter. So just these two similar story articles kind of give me a picture right here. I can see this is from Life Science Weekly. It's from a newspaper. It's short. This is short. So one thing you're going to want to look at is the length of the article. You're going to want to look for an article that has a lot of citations, a variety of citations. So they've pulled their research from a lot of different places. You want to look and see if they list their affiliation. A scholarly journal is going to, an author is going to say, I am Dr. So-and-so, and I am from this agency, or I'm from this college. And they'll probably provide their contact information because they want to and are willing to be contacted. They'll stand behind their work and they're happy to talk about it. You won't get something by so-and-so news reporter. This is somebody's research. It means a lot. Some other things that you kind of make up the characteristics of the scientific article. Usually they're going to have their very clearly stated research question or their hypothesis. They are going to have probably the methods that they used, a summary of their question. You'll see the body of their work, and that will end with their conclusions and findings as a basic skeleton of how that works. So sorry, this is a long video. I meant to make a 5-minute video, and it's over 10 minutes now. You know, you have my email, call or email. We can always meet and we can talk more about your questions. So anyway, hope that helps.